If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart. Let's get to it, New York.
What is up? It is EJ Stewart. It is Orange and Blue Bloods, and we got a lot to talk about as we are full in the thick of this Knicks offseason, a championship offseason. Plenty of developments have happened since the last time we recorded an episode of Orange and Blue Bloods. Your boy's married. So for those watching on the stream of the show, you can see the wedding rings on the hand. So that's one of the reasons why we had a little bit of a little mini hiatus. A lot has happened in my life with the marriage. A lot has happened with other opportunities that came up, which allowed me to step away a little bit from this podcast. But I wanted to get back into doing these Orange and Blue Bloods episodes because we're going to do them throughout the off season. So it's crazy to look at all the stuff I had set up, and everything was set up from when the Knicks won the NBA title, when they won Game 5 against San Antonio Spurs. It brought back a lot of good memories, and I'm happy to be back doing this show because, like I said, we have a lot to discuss. The team that's coming back will look different. Mitchell Robinson is out. Andre Drummond is in, so we'll break that down. We'll also break down some of the guys that will be coming back to the team. Landry Shamet, Jose Alvarado, Mohamed Diawara. Those guys officially announced as signings as we record this podcast Monday, July 6th. So we'll break down how the Knicks did in retaining some of the talent that were free agents this upcoming offseason. And we got to talk about the elephant in the room, which is that there is one major free agent that is still out there, that is still making a decision. Here we go again. The Knicks fans don't like to hear those words. And we already got to talk about LeBron James and how his impending free agency impacts the Knicks as well. We'll get some other Knicks stories happening throughout the past few weeks. So I'm so happy to be back. So happy to be doing Orange and Blue Bloods again. Love y'all. Love the support we've had for this show since it's been back late March. And, of course, you can do all the things we typically do to support the show. So if you want to support, make sure you subscribe to the podcast channel. Just search Orange and Blue Bloods wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure, if you can, give me a 5-star review. And if you can do a full written review, all those things help the show. Also, if you can go to the YouTube channel, New Generation Media, if you want to watch these episodes, you can watch me in my glittery Knicks hat that I actually wore for my wedding. If you've seen any of my wedding photos, for those that are watching, I'll do a little side profile. You can see the customization, EJ the groom. This was part of the set for my groomsmen. And I decided, I had my championship hat that I'm going to show you guys right here. Championship hat was right next to me. And I had this on, and I almost threw it on. But I was like, you know what? I think since I'm coming back as a married man, I can tell the story about my wedding a little bit. Let me actually put on the wedding hat that I had. This was the hat I wore during my, not the ceremony, but during the party. I rocked this, the Knicks draft hat that came out this year. So if you guys want to watch this lovely hat and see what I'm wearing, be sure to head to the New Generation Media YouTube channel. Just search New Generation Media and make sure you subscribe. And while you're there, if you're watching these episodes, make sure you do the same thing. Hit the like button, comment in the comment section. We'd love to get your thoughts on everything happening with the New York Knicks. And congrats are always welcome, of course. A lot of people have been happy about the wedding, of course. Shout out to my lovely wife, Andrea. And she's very happy as well because she feels she's now become invested in this Knicks world. And when she decided to hook up with your boy, the Knicks were the worst team in the NBA and losing the draft lottery to Zion Williamson. So the fact that we're here now celebrating being husband and wife and celebrating as NBA champs is a good feeling to be a Knicks fan. But let's keep the ball rolling, man. Let's get this going. Let's talk about the departure of one Mitchell Robinson. So Mitchell Robinson's days as a New York Knick are officially over. The big man is officially signing with the Boston Celtics in free agency, with the Knicks unwilling to jump into the second apron due to the edict that was handed down by James Dolan. Boston swooped in, giving Mitchell Robinson a 3-year, $47 million contract. That was a number that the Knicks would have had a hard time getting to, even if they were willing to go into the second apron, or even if they decided to let go of Landry Shamet and some of these other guys that are coming back. $16 million a year was going to be a big number, and the Knicks did not match it at all, clearly. And now Mitchell Robinson is gone. He was the longest tenured Knick. He came in as a homegrown Knick, and his 8-year run with the team is now kaput. So out goes Mitchell Robinson. In comes in his replacement, which I'll be honest, it was excuse me. There were some uneasy moments, I think, as you saw a lot of the free agent centers go off the board. You had that very weird post by Chris Haynes where he had the rejected graphic under Ease Misi to describe the Knicks' efforts to try to get him. Apparently, Knicks were making moves to try to maybe make a trade for Ease Misi. He's the backup center for the New Orleans Pelicans. He is a shot blocker, a rim runner, player with some similar skill sets to Mitchell Robinson. And as we learned, thanks to Chris Haynes, the Knicks were apparently rejected. That Ease Misi is going to be, according to Chris Haynes, a core foundational piece for whatever New Orleans is building. So have fun with that, New Orleans. So no Ease Misi. A lot of the other guys we talked about, Diabate from Musa Diabate from the Charlotte Hornets, someone that also Knicks reportedly kicked the can on. Nothing came about of that. And again, a lot of these other free agents started signing for bigger money, more money the Knicks were willing to give out, which was the vet minimum. So there were some uneasy moments about how the Knicks were going to actually find a way to fill in the massive hole that was left with Mitch Robinson leaving, especially considering Ariel Hukporti had also signed a deal with the Philadelphia 76ers. So you lose Mitch, you lose Hukporti. Right now, one center on the roster, just Karl-Anthony Towns. But then we got the word last week that Andre Drummond had agreed to a 1-year, $3.8 million veteran minimum contract to come to the New York Knicks. So Drummond, the Mount Vernon native, comes close to home. And that kind of concludes a little bit of the, I think, maybe a little mini panic I think that was happening among some fans regarding what was going to happen with the Mitchell Robinson departure. So here's what I'll say. I think the loss of Mitchell Robinson, I think, is crushing. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, especially because it was to the Boston Celtics. Now, I'm happy that Mitchell Robinson got his money. It is well-deserved. He is somebody that has overcome a lot when it comes to injuries. He's talked about the mental health struggles he's had over the course of several years, but he even talked about it during the NBA playoffs and leading up into the NBA Finals. So he's well worth the money, and I'm very happy for him that he got it. I'll be real, though. I do feel a little petty that of all the places he could have went to, he had to go to essentially the number one op. Call me a jerk, call me cold-hearted, call me whatever, call me Johnny-come-lately, unappreciative. That's fine. I'll take all those things. And I'm not saying all those things aren't wrong. I'm just telling you how I feel. That is how I personally feel. For someone that has supported Mitch, someone that has supported his time here as a Knick and has grown to love what Mitch has brought to the team, go to the Celtics, man. Really? The Celtics? Listen, this could have been the most money he was offered. There's a reality that is most likely the case. Or the other team that offered them $48 million could have very well been the Pelicans or some other like terrible debased basketball team. And Mitch may want to continue to compete for more titles. So I know all of those things. It's a hard pill to swallow though, because I got that notification. I was asleep, ironically. Everything with the big with the Knicks happens while I'm asleep. I was asleep when Donovan Mitchell was traded to the Cavs. I woke up like an hour, 2 hours later. I was taking a nap in the middle of the day. I was asleep when Tom Thibodeau got fired. And I almost was asleep when the Mitchell Robinson signing was announced. I had just woken up from a nap. And then the Shams notification hit maybe 3 or 4 minutes right after. And I'm kind of groggy, so I'm kind of making, is this real? Does it really say Celtics? I was kind of beside myself. So it seems like big news always seems to happen around the time I'm taking an afternoon nap. So I get the notification. I saw Celtics. I'm like, man, really? Any other team he could have went to? So it's disappointing. I've asked the question. I posed it here on the show. I think it's a legitimate question, but maybe I'm just being too petty. Coming into this free agency, I felt like Mitchell Robinson, regardless of almost any team he would have signed with, I said whenever that team comes back to the Garden and Mitchell Robinson makes his debut as a Knicks opponent for the first time, regardless of who that team was, he should get a standing ovation by everyone at the Garden, and everyone in the stands and everybody, attending, because he's earned that. He grabbed the biggest offensive rebound in the history of the New York Knicks. Again, he was literally with the Knicks during rock bottom and stayed with the team and was one of the reasons why they won an NBA championship despite what was an up and down postseason for him. He deserves that praise. But then I saw him sign with the Celtics, and I wondered if he still was owed that standing ovation. I'm being real. I'm being honest. He will get it because there will be more than enough Knicks fans that will stand up and give him that standing ovation. But just the thought for me, if I was in If I was, in the stands for that Knicks game against the Boston Celtics at home, the hated Boston Celtics, arguably the number one rival for the New York Knicks. It's either them, Pacers, or Heat. To me, those are the only three teams you could even have a conversation about. Maybe some '90s people may go Bulls, but to me that was really more of a small window thing. That wasn't a prolonged thing. To me, like, if I was sitting there, I'm not booing Mitch. I'm not giving him a hard time. Now he's on the free throw line to give him a hard time, maybe. But, I'm not booing him. I'm not, like, jeering him. I'm not saying trade or anything like that. But I don't know if I get up and get a standing ovation. Like, I'm someone who gives standing ovations. Like, anytime I'm at the Garden and they show Carmelo Anthony on the big screen, which seems like almost every other night because he's there all the time, I always stand up and give Melo a standing ovation because he deserves it. Carmelo Anthony didn't leave the Knicks and decide I'm going to go sign with the Miami Heat or sign with the Boston Celtics or the Indiana Pacers. So I feel comfortable doing that. This is a little different. It hit me a little hard. I'm not going to lie. As time goes on, if you get closer to the NBA season, I would expect that I'll probably be over this. But as we sit here, still on July 6th, I still feel a way about Mitchell Robinson signing with all teams, the Boston Celtics. I know it's petty. I know it should be beneath me. But damn it, I'm a Knicks fan through and through. And regardless of who's on the team, it's all about the blue and orange, the name on the front, not the names on the back. And I appreciate Mitch for everything he did. But damn it, he's not now. And damn it, I can't wait for the first time the Knicks get to hack at Mitch because that will be ironic and cathartic. With that being said, let's get to the basketball side of this. I've been going with the personal side of this. And like I said, listen, Mitch is imperfect. It will be, though, to me, naive to say that he will be easily replaced. He is an elite offensive rebounder. He's a defensive anchor. And to me, the best way to describe Mitch's impact on the team, because I've seen a lot of folks try to poo-poo this departure as if it's not that big a deal. It is a big deal. The Knicks the last 2 seasons basically elected to make Mitchell Robinson a part-time basketball player because they saw his value as indispensable to them winning a championship. Mitchell Robinson did not play back-to-backs. Mitchell Robinson was put on a minutes restriction. Mitchell Robinson was essentially put in bubble wrap for 2 straight seasons because the team was like, if this guy goes down like he has in previous seasons, we will not win an NBA championship. That simple. And it is rare for a backup role player to be given that kind of work schedule. Like, let's be real. Like, that doesn't happen. We've seen the Kawhi Leonards, the Joel Embiids, LeBron Jameses, the star guys who are superstar players, older, later in their career, guys with injury histories. You don't see that for backup centers. Guys that can't play back-to-backs, guys that are missing 40, 50 games purely by design, which is what the Knicks were doing with Mitchell Robinson this entire season. Like, and they did the previous season too. So you can't tell me that they did all that stuff to keep this guy upright for the playoffs. They were vindicated by it because in the first year they did it, they went farther than they've ever gone, all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then, not ever gone, obviously. Our farthest they had gone in, since 2000. And then last year, or this past season, they won an NBA championship for the first time in 53 years. So you can't tell me that was a small thing. That was a huge piece to the Knicks' puzzle of winning a title. So I don't think that there's any sugarcoating that this is a tough loss, and it's going to be tough for the Knicks to overcome this. Now, with that being said, I do think that Andre Drummond has some qualities and elements to his game that I think will potentially make him an adequate fill-in while Mitchell Robinson is gone, which is right now he's gone for good. Andre Drummond also is an excellent offensive rebounder. Andre Drummond is a pretty good defensive anchor, maybe not as good as he used to be, but he's definitely more of a defensive-minded big. Andre Drummond can rim run, and he's a big body, which means that he will be one of the best things on Mitchell Robinson. What I loved when him and Brunson finally started to get into a rhythm, him setting ball screens on Brunson and allowing him to get real space, real wiggle room was huge, I thought, especially during the playoffs. Andre Drummond may not be 7'1" like Mitch, but he is gigantic. I mean, he's massive, and he's a tough guy to move around. So getting him to set those bone-crushing screens that Mitchell Robinson set shouldn't be too hard. So there's aspects to Drummond's game. This is definitely a downgrade. He's not as good as Mitchell Robinson. look no further than the Eastern Conference semifinals when Mitchell Robinson was alley dunking and destroying the Philadelphia 76ers while Drummond was on the team, that to tell you that this is not the same kind of player. He's not. But it's a decent fill-in. And the fact that you may have Jonas Valanciunas, who could be bought out and is seen as someone that the Knicks are definitely going to be targeting if he does get bought out, I think that would be a pretty decent 1-2 tandem behind the bench, because the backup center position is very important with this team. The reality is Karl-Anthony Towns is someone who will get in foul trouble. That's just his career. That's his career. That's going to be who he is for the rest of his career. And you're going to need other guys who can step in and potentially have to play big minutes throughout regular season games and playoff games, as we saw this past postseason. So Drummond and maybe potentially Jonas Valanciunas are guys who can do that in a pinch. So I think the Knicks recovered pretty well. The only thing I'll say on this is the last thing I want to say on this is the fact that it may be all's well that ends well that the Knicks were able to get Drummond and, basically for not even, 25% of the cost of Mitchell Robinson. I still look at how the situation went about, and it doesn't make me feel great. And I'm not even talking about Mitch going to Boston. It's the idea that the front office reportedly was all in on going over the second apron to bring back Mitchell Robinson, because that was their basketball assessment about what was best for the team. And then James Dolan, who's the team owner, decided, it seems like, again, these are reports. I'm not in the room, but I'm just telling you the report. This is from Fred Katz. Ian Bailey has mentioned that basically the reason the Knicks aren't going in the second apron is because of what you heard from James Dolan when he went on my station, WFAN, spoke to Craig Carton and Chris McMonagle, was that the second apron was, quote-unquote, a suicide mission, basically, and that he would not allow the team to do that, and you could not do that, which meant some guys weren't going to have to come back, and Mitchell Robinson right now is the odd man out. James Dolan may be right. The truth may be that going in second apron is too difficult and unnecessary, and that if you had to lose Mitchell Robinson, that this is something they can overcome. But the Knicks got here. When I say got here, I mean they became NBA champions not by listening to James Dolan's basketball decision-making. James Dolan has allowed Leon Rose essentially carte blanche to run this team and to bring this team back. James Dolan has been widely reported, has been in many ways, distracted by him trying to get the Sphere off the ground. And by all accounts, it seems like the Sphere is a really cool thing. And it seems like he's done a great job with that. And I think that allowed Leon Rose a lot of freedom to really build the team in the way that he wanted, because you didn't have the owner kind of staring over his shoulder. This is different. This feels a lot more. James Dolan's been a lot more visible. Yes, they won a title, so that's maybe to be expected, but he's been a lot more visible. He's talking a lot more than we're used to hearing him talk. And it just makes me pause and makes me hope that this isn't something that becomes a consistent thing. That James Dolan, because of what was a phenomenal speech he gave to the players prior to them going into the playoffs about how they had everything it took to win a title. It was a really rousing speech, and it was a speech that, according to multiple people who were in the building, apparently, they said that it really impacted them. Because of that, because of the fact that he successfully finally brought the Knicks to the mountaintop, I hope that doesn't embolden him to think that somehow he now has more insight into, what it takes to build a champion over his basketball advisors, his basketball executives. I don't want that to be the next phase of what post-championship Knicks looks like. I'm still in euphoria from winning a title, but I'll be honest, this Mitchell Robinson ordeal did kind of blow my high a little bit, because I'm like, what do you mean we're not bringing back Mitchell Robinson? Wait, we're not bringing him back because James Dolan's the one that's making the case that this isn't a basketball decision that makes sense? I have no interest in anything James Dolan has to say about basketball. When you talk about business, you want to talk about now clearly motivation. That's something that he can talk about, because he has shown he knows that. But and maybe hiring basketball people, he finally got it right with Leon. I'll hear him on what it takes to actually be a winner. I'm not sure. In terms of building a basketball roster, that's not something I want. So I'm hoping, for Knicks fans' sake, for the Knicks' sake, for James Dolan's sake, I'm hoping for everybody, this is a reoccurring thing. that the basketball people within the front office say, we think we should do this. And James Dolan comes in and says, well, nah, we got to do this because I think that this is how we move. I don't like that being a precedent. I hope it's not a precedent. I think it is something to now talk about and to keep an eye on. Like I said before, I put it on social media and people got mad at me, but I don't care. It's still the truth. This whole Mitchell Robinson ordeal, I think, put back on the table an uncomfortable question I did not think we had to ask for a while, which is who is making basketball decisions. We knew full stop up until maybe the Tibbs thing. That's maybe the one that I have a suspicion that the Tibbs. I've believed, and I defended James Dolan for this guy. He was right. I have firmly believed that James Dolan was the person that probably put the Tibbs firing over the top. James Dolan was in those meetings. And now at the end of the day, the players said their piece. So to me, the players had every bit to do with Tibbs being fired than even James Dolan. The players went in and said, "Oh, Tibbs is great. He's got nothing wrong with him." I think he would have been still the Knicks head coach. But I think James Dolan was the one that heard the criticisms of Tibbs and was most alarmed and said, "I think we got to move on, and we need guys who will work better with you." You mean Leon Rose and Gerson Rosas and the whole staff. I almost wonder if he also feels vindicated by that. Not just being vindicated by actually finally building a champion, but also vindicated in that if he was the driving force behind Tibbs' firing, he was 1,000% right. And that would have been a decision that he would have had one up on when it comes to Leon Rose if Leon Rose and the team did not want to fire Tom Thibodeau. I think the fact that he got fired probably is just that they were very open to it, in my opinion. But I do wonder that aspect of it. But I don't want to put that question back on the table of who is making basketball decisions. And if any way the answer to that is somehow James Dolan having an outsized influence, I do think that's something to be concerned about. But shout out to Andre Drummond, man. Welcome to the team. Welcome to New York City. And listen, the reality is because of where the Knicks are, similar to when they signed Jordan Clarkson last year. We'll talk about him a little later. The Knicks will be able to get some of these veteran guys who have not played on championship teams to come in for vet minimums, even though Drummond is someone who publicly stated that he felt like because he kept signing vet minimums, it was kind of pigeonholing him to only making $3 million a year when he's someone who he thinks could make more. He probably could. But the reality is, come to New York, play for a team that can win a championship, that is now a proven concept that they can win a championship, money you can make off the court. He's from the New York area. I think it ended up being a no-brainer for him. And they're going to be able to continue to get these kind of guys for the foreseeable future as long as Jalen Brunson and everybody's upright, because the Knicks are one of the better organizations right now in the NBA. But happy trails to Mitchell Robinson. I hate that you're a Celtic, but you were an awesome Knick, fun guy to root for. And I won't say best of luck basketball. I don't want you to win anything. I hope you're healthy. I don't want you to win anything. But best of luck just in life and in general, because again, what you did for the Knicks, is we can't put into I thought we couldn't put a price tag on it. Apparently, the price tag was the second apron according to James Dolan. I don't think there was a price tag for what you did for New York City. I'm still upset though that he went to the Celtics. Let's keep it moving. So while Mitchell Robinson is gone, we do have other guys that are going to remain on the team, and people should be really excited about that. Knicks were successful in being able to re-sign all of their other key, at least most of their other key free agents this offseason for the guys coming off the bench. So we begin with Landry Shamet, who is officially going to be back with the New York Knicks. Shamet signing a 4-year, $24 million contract. The note about this that is interesting is that Landry Shamet reportedly turned down bigger money from other contending teams to return to the Knicks on this contract. So you love to hear that when it comes to Landry Shamet. Jose Alvarado, he returns as well. 3-year, $14 million deal. He got that deal after declining his $4 million player option that he could have opted into this year. He opted out of that, but got a 3-year deal with the Knicks at a pretty reasonable number. And then Mohamed Diawara, who was a team's second-round pick that kind of burst onto the scene as a guy who a lot of folks, to be honest, didn't have much on him when it came to his draft profile. ESPN just didn't have any analysis when he was picked. And He came in and was very impressive in summer league and was very impressive in the preseason, and then when he got his opportunity to play in the regular season, was very impressive to the point where there were some Knicks fans that were upset that he did not make the playoff rotation. I think some of that was strategic, just like the signing of Jeremy Sohan. I thought was strategic. I think they did not want to show any more of Mohamed Diawara because for someone who was on a 1-year contract as a rookie, he was only 20 years old. If he showed out in the playoffs, it would have been bye-bye Mo Diawara. He would have got a big deal from somebody else. So I think that was the Knicks trying to protect their investment. And they played with fire a little bit because he was someone that I thought maybe could have helped. But nonetheless, he's back, 4-year deal, $10 million. So all those guys returned. And again, this is now 2 finals contributors in Shamet and Alvarado back. And then you got a high ceiling piece in Mo Diawara coming back. To me, just like the Andre Drummond signing, these bargain deals for Diawara, for Shamet, for Alvarado, these to me are a testament to the established culture that is now here with the New York Knicks. This is a place where players come in, they can play well, and it's a place that they believe that they can continue to win and continue to grow their brand and continue to grow their opportunities off the court, so much so that they're willing to forego bigger money elsewhere for the sake of staying. You gotta love what's being established right now with the New York Knicks, and that's what happens when you win an NBA championship. But I'll be honest, I did not know. I thought this was going to be a lot more of a painful offseason. I was not sure if they would be able to bring back essentially all of their key bench free agents outside of Jordan Clarkson, who we'll get to a little bit later. But, I mean, this is huge. In terms of Landry Shamet, first of all, I got to say, man, we're going to give a round of applause to the Shamet Hive, where I am a card-carrying member. I want to call myself a damn near founder, but if founder is too harsh, there may be somebody out there on social media on X who was going crazy over Landry Shamet for me. That may be possible, but I don't think there has been a louder advocate for what Landry Shamet brings to the New York Knicks than your boy sitting right here. I said this when Tibbs was burying him on the bench. I said this when the Knicks were in the midst of beginning the playoffs last year after he worked his way into the rotation and he was not playing well, and said that he needed another opportunity. And I said it as he came in and gave the Knicks a spark in Game 3 against Indiana, coming off the bench after I've been yelling that he should have been playing. And then I said it this year when they brought him back, and I thought he should have made the team. And I've said it over and over and over again with Landry Shamet. And I think bringing back Landry at this number is awesome. I mean, this is a guy who is a legit three-point shooter, a legit knockdown guy, plays tenacious defense. And what I love about Shamet, too, is, again, there's so much proof of concept now for a lot of all these conversations with the Knicks. Is not only is he a big-time shooter, he is a guy who can hit big shots. We've seen Landry Shamet in now NBA playoff games, NBA finals games, hit big threes. And it's different shooting in the NBA Finals or shooting in the NBA playoffs with all the pressure on than it is in the regular season. We've seen guys have amazing shooting numbers in the regular season, and then they get to the playoffs, or they get to the NBA Finals, they can hit the side of a barn. Landry Shamet is showing that he has that 3-and-D ability that can translate not just in the regular season like he did so well for the Knicks this past season, but also in the postseason, meant that bringing him back was essential. If it came down to a decision where it was Mitchell Robinson versus Shamet plus Alvarado plus Diawara, I probably would have made the same decision the Knicks would have made, which was to bring back those 3 guys as opposed to bringing back only Mitchell Robinson. Because I think Shamet is just that valuable. So big ups to the Shamet Hive and big ups to Landry Shamet. I'm happy he's now got some security. And this relationship that's been forged with this team and this player is really unique. Because if you think about it, this is somebody that said you had to make the team 2 years in a row. He got cut last year because he hurt his shoulder in preseason when he was playing well. And the Knicks they cut him, but then they drafted him in the G League draft to try to protect him so that they say it kind of made a handshake agreement. Listen, like, we still believe in you, and if you stick around with us, don't sign with nobody else, we will, I said G League draft. I don't know if it was a draft, or I forgot how they did it. They did some kind of G League finagling. I think it was a G League draft if I remember correctly. Either that or they signed him to a G League contract. But either way, they said, hang tight, get healthy, we'll let you rehab with us, work out with us, and all those different things You'll essentially be a part of the team without being a part of the team, and then when you're healthy, we'll sign you back to the team. And they kept their word on that. Again, so many front offices maybe would not have done this, especially for a guy who, again, is essentially the 12th, 13th man on the team. And then coming into this year, again, they bring him back this season, and he's on a tryout. And listen, we'll never know what happened if Malcolm Brogdon would have decided not to retire. But the team elected to bring him back on another veteran minimum kind of contract. And he goes from being the 12th, 13th man on the roster to being someone who was a linchpin rotational guy for essentially the entire season. And to see that guy work from where he was, which was he was basically fighting for his NBA life. This is a former first-round pick. I'm someone who watched Landry Shamet when he was at Wichita State, so I remember kind of the draft profile of Landry Shamet. And this is somebody that was really pretty much on his last NBA legs. And to see him fight and claw, but also for this Knicks organization to give him the space and the belief that he can find a way to find a role on this team, it's a really beautiful story, and I'm really happy for him, and I'm happy he's going to remain a Knick, and I think he will continue to be an important piece for this team moving forward. And then the Jose Alvarado thing, listen, I'm happy Jose Alvarado's back as well. When you look at Jose Alvarado, I like Tyler Kolek. I don't know if I would have been completely comfortable with Tyler Kolek taking over the reins as a backup point guard next season. Now, I'm not completely out. I would like him to still remain on the team if it's possible. I know there's people wondering if he gets dangled in a trade. I wouldn't trade him. I think he's a good guy to have as a third guard. As we saw last season, almost certainly they're probably going to need him at some point during the regular season. And to me, I think this is like the perfect like low cost guy to be there as the number 2 guard in Jose Alvarado. Allow Tyler to continue to develop at his own speed, at his own pace. And to me, it's really insurance that if Tyler Kolek can't ever become the backup point guard, you have somebody who absolutely can continue to fill that role. Because Alvarado, we know what his energy brings. We know the defense he brings. We know the competitiveness. I mean, he's a guy that it seems like he was born to be a New York Knick. I mean, I don't know how you don't sit here and root for this guy. Brooklyn, went to Christ King High School. Me being a Catholic high school basketball player myself, I can't help but root for Jose Alvarado. So for a team that's competing for a title, and we saw what Alvarado was able to do on the biggest stage, I feel good about having Alvarado here. I would have felt uneasy having to thrust Tyler Kolek into that position, being unsure if he was ready. He may have been. He may well been. I mean, Tyler Kolek had showed great growth this year, and I thought that he improved a ton, even though I thought it was appropriate that he lost his spot in the rotation. I was someone who was saying that they didn't need Alvarado. I ended up being dead wrong because Kolek was playing so well in December and in November, but once January hit and the Soon hit, he started to see the team clearly desperately needing more backcourt depth. It was important that they got Alvarado, so I'm happy he's here, and now those guys can continue to compete. I think that Kolek will get his opportunity to show that maybe he should be the backup spot. So I'm excited with those two guys still being the backup guard. I'm happy Alvarado is back. And then Mo Diawara, I'll say this. Even though Alvarado and Shamet may be more proven commodities come playoff time, I still think that Mo Diawara may end up being the gem of this free agent class. Because say what you want about Shamet, who I've said a ton, and I love Shamet. Say what you want about what Alvarado brings with his competitiveness, with his toughness. The ceiling for Mo Diawara is still, to me, super, super high. And what I love about the idea of bringing him on and keeping him here, obviously, is this is a player that I think you can kind of mold into whatever you need him to be. If it is him being a corner three-point sniper who plays defense as a 3-and-D guy, you can have him do that. If it's somebody that you want to develop into a small ball 5 who can handle the rock and maybe do some of the high post stuff that Karl-Anthony Towns is doing, he has shown that he has the ball skills to potentially be that kind of player. If you need him to be just a straight-up defensive ace who can guard positions 1 through 4, he can do that. I think he has so much potential. And again, we're talking about now 4 more years of him at a extremely low cost. This is going to end up being, I think, one of the best contracts in the NBA. I think that he will be in the rotation next season. I don't think we'll have another playoffs where he's not playing. And I think he's going to be an extremely impactful player for the Knicks in their title defense. And what I love about Diawara, too, is I'm not saying he's OG Anunoby. Don't get me twisted. But I love the idea, potentially, if he continues to develop, that you have OG Anunoby, this all-world defensive player, now a guy who's becoming an all-star caliber offensive player, who's long, 6'7", 6'8", crazy long arms, can guard 4 positions, flip the athletic profile of the court when he's all out there. That the fact that he can come out of the game, you're bringing in another 6'8", long-armed guy who can shoot threes and and push the tempo, and like I love that concept that teams won't get a break when he comes out the game. Like the fact that you're not coming in with another guy who's undersized. Like the reality is in this postseason, you bring out OG Anunoby, you're probably bringing in Landry Shamet, who's great, but is 3 inches shorter, great defender, but not as defensively sound as OG. He definitely can't play no 4. Or you bring in Jordan Clarkson, who's 6'4", again, not nearly the defender overall. Again, just the athletic profile is just not going to be the same. And OG Anunoby just stepped on the basketball court, and he's a problem. The fact that that Diawara will get to continue to develop playing next to someone like OG Anunoby, just like I thought OG learned a lot playing that one season under Kawhi Leonard and those years playing with Pascal Siakam. I feel like the same thing could happen with this kid. So big development, I thought, was the Knicks, the first one that they got off the books. And I think that spoke to how important it was. They made sure they locked in Mo Diawara, and I can't wait to see how this kid continues to develop. I think he's going to be a key piece for this Knicks team moving forward. So congrats to the Knicks that all got paid. Congrats to Jose Alvarado. Congrats to Landry Shamet. And congrats to Mo Diawara. Very happy for those guys to continue to be part of this championship nucleus. But there's been, like I said before, an elephant in this room that we got to discuss. And it's one that I don't think is going to be a conversation that's going to go away. Or it's not. It's really going to be the conversation of the summer, to be honest. We're still having it. There's been no decision made. But LeBron James and where he goes will certainly end up being the storyline of the summer, outside of the Knicks being the defending NBA champions. So right now, the basketball world all awaits LeBron James' newest decision of where he will play next season after he decided to leave the Los Angeles Lakers. His agent, Rich Paul, addressed the Knicks as one of the teams the King would consider on his podcast that he does with Max Kellerman. And you guys got to hear this sound, because apparently there's an alternate universe where the Knicks don't win a title and the King comes to the Mecca.
I think it's difficult, right? Because the last thing you want to do is mess up something like that, right? The Knicks has a good thing going. That'll be. If the Knicks hadn't have won, there would be no board.
He'd be going to the Knicks.
He'd be going to the Knicks.
That is interesting. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, this idea that LeBron essentially had this place picked, because let's call it a spade a spade. We know he knew he was not coming back to the Lakers probably months ago. The timeline of when he knew keeps getting shifted back with almost every other day. When it first came out, like he told the team whatever, they said, "Oh, he decided this in the last few days." And then I'm doing this podcast Monday, July 6th. I see Ramon Shelburne say, actually, he knew last week. And trust me, by August or by tip-off of the season, we're going to learn, LeBron James had his exit plan with the Lakers in March. It's just how this is going to go. But that's interesting that essentially not only that he had his exit picked out, but that he knew where he was going to go. It makes me go back to that weird, bizarre meeting that was announced between Leon Rose, Worldwide West, the Knicks vice president, and Rich Paul. If you remember, not this season, last season, where it was like, this was prior to the trade deadline, and it was the Knicks brass meets with Rich Paul to clear the air and chart a new path toward their business relationship. Which is like, what? And there have been this kind of these, I don't even know if they were rumors. I mean, there was real smoke, I think, with the Knicks in terms of Leon Rose, Worldwide West. These were guys who were very close to LeBron James at one point in time. Leon Rose would be LeBron's agent. Worldwide West, who knows what he was to LeBron James? I guess you call him an advisor, but I don't know. You know how West rolls. That's William Wesley, of course, for those who don't know his real name. But nonetheless, these were people that were close to LeBron. And then the decision happened. And then they were fired, basically. And there was word that LeBron was not happy with how, especially Worldwide West, was moving during the whole decision process. And Rich Paul became his agent, who's been his close friend. And there have been points of contention, really, since then, and including when Leon Rose took over for the Knicks. Remember, the Knicks traded for Cam Reddish, seemingly out of nowhere. That's a Rich Paul client. Cam Reddish comes to the team. Tom Thibodeau wants nothing to do with him, doesn't play him. Cam Reddish didn't seem to be happy about it. Rich Paul didn't seem to be happy about it. And they made a big stink about the whole Cam Reddish situation. And he got kind of shipped out of unceremoniously to Portland for Josh Hart. And that was the end of that. And there was word that Rich Paul essentially put a embargo on any of his clients to join the Knicks, which was crazy because the Knicks were building something special and building something great. But because of the LeBron beef, because of the Cam Reddish situation, he was not going to allow any other clutch clients to go there. So there was this whole thing. Apparently, it's all had to get squashed by a meeting last year. But I got to shout out my guy, and I got to have him on the show. I mentioned him before, and we're going to have him on the show. I almost had him on the show a couple weeks ago. Chris Persianen of Clutch Points, also works at WFAN, covers the Knicks. I remember he tweeted, I just think it'd be naive for you guys to look at this as only a meeting about let's clear the air and any vet minimum guys or guys that we'll let's clear the air on trades for the future and that. He said he reps the biggest client in the NBA. To think that there's not a conversation about LeBron would be naive. It's something along the lines of what Chris said, and I thought, I just kind of put it in the back of my head. Didn't really care much of it because I didn't want LeBron here, and we'll get to all that stuff in a second. But I thought that was interesting. And then now hearing Rich Paul say basically that New York was already picked. It basically was done. Had the Knicks not won the title, makes me again wonder if that was a meeting where maybe there was real air that needed to be cleared, but also was this let's kill multiple birds with one stone. Let's also figure out, hey, you guys got a good thing going. LeBron doesn't want to be in LA. What's the possibility we can make this happen? And let bygones be bygones. I firmly now believe that was a conversation that happened a couple years ago. But anyway, that's Rich Paul saying why it may have happened in an alternate reality that LeBron would have been a Knick. Now you got to hear why Rich Paul says he doesn't say it because I think he don't want to not put leverage on these other teams. But I think he kind of alludes to why it's unlikely, and I found this quite fascinating.
When LeBron comes onto your team, I don't care if you just won a championship. I don't care if you've been the best player. It's different, man. His enterprise value and what he just carries is different.
And I respect the fact
Mike Brown knows this.
And I respect the fact that he wouldn't, when you guys wouldn't want to mess that up for the Knicks.
Jalen Brunson would literally have to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, man, it's no issue with me. It's no issue with me."
Jalen. Interesting. So, Rich Paul puts it in plain speak, saying, listen, if you're bringing LeBron to your team, just know the circus is coming. Like, more or less. He won't call it that, but that's what I'm going to call it. He's like, if you bring LeBron to your team, just the media attention, the brand exposure, everything that he brings, regardless of whether you win a title or not, regardless of whatever team you're on, it's a lot for people. Not everybody can handle it. Not everybody wants to handle it. And with the Knicks having won a title, it would require there to be a sign off on that they don't mind what LeBron James brings. And listen, I think LeBron James is one of those kind of guys where he's going to one of these, as for lack of a term, these crap ass teams that haven't won anything. He don't give a damn about, stepping on toes. Like, he's like, I'm the king. I can go wherever the hell I want. When you're the defending NBA champions, I think there's a difference where now there is, in some ways, low pressure on LeBron that if he comes in and all of this media circus and attention around him, he doesn't do a good job of quelching that actually now becomes a reflection on him, because even things out of LeBron's control that he can't control can separate and can divide an NBA team just because of just the apparatus that is the king. So I will say this, and by the way, to add on to that, Rich Paul said the Knicks definitely did check in, but we've heard from SNY's Ian Bondi, we've heard from New York Post Stephen Bondi, Ian Bagley, Ian Bagley of SNY, and the New York Post, Stephen Bondi, they both said that it is a long shot that LeBron James will join the team. Ian Bagley said that the Knicks are very happy with their championship nucleus. So I don't think you're going to have to worry about LeBron James coming here. With that said, I made one of the biggest about faces I think I've ever done in the history of me in media, or me talking basketball, talking sports. Because I have a video that still is probably one of my most watched views on social media, where I said that I wanted LeBron James to never put on a Knicks uniform under any circumstances. And I firmly believe that. And in fact, I've now flipped it and I still believe that, but we'll get to that in a second. I firmly believe that because of, once again, going back to the theme, I am a petty person. I remember when LeBron kicked the Knicks when they were down. Played it up like he was interested in going to the Knicks, and then 2010 goes to the Heat, and it seemed like, okay, you make the decision, go to Heat, whatever, we move on. It just seemed like he still was like hell bent on kicking the Knicks while they were down. You know, when he came to the Garden, it was, you know, blowing out the Knicks and, you know, throwing the bottle game with Richard Jefferson to kind of clown the team. Always seemed to want to talk about what the Knicks were doing, what they were firing David Fizdale, if Phil Jackson was screwing up. Like, he seemed to always want to chime in on the Knicks organization when I don't think Knicks fans wanted anything to do with him, or the Knicks fans cared about him at all. But he just seemed to always want to stick a little knife in unnecessarily. So to me, I was like, when the Knicks now are up and you're scouring around trying to find your next contender because, you know, the Lakers have dumped you for the next hot thing in Luka Doncic, I didn't want to help you out. I'm not going to be giving you a New York Knicks MSG stimulus package for the end of your career. Go somewhere else. And that's what I felt. And then Giannis signed with the Heat, and then Jaylen Brown got traded to the Sixers. And I said, I got to be a bigger person. I got to mature. As much as I can't stand how LeBron James acted over the last 15 years since the decision where he spurned the Knicks, and despite how I dislike a lot of the machinations that happen around LeBron James because he is such a big sports figure, the reality is the Knicks want to win a championship. He makes them a better team, and it would keep him away from two teams that are reportedly definitely one of the contenders, right? Philadelphia, who is now looking a lot more scarier with Jaylen Brown, and Miami, who has Giannis, and Cleveland, who they haven't gotten anybody yet, and they all have Dean Wade, but if they add LeBron James, now also becomes a formidable challenger. If you could keep him away from those teams, I thought it was worth the headache of bringing him to New York. And then I watched this, whatever this nonsense was, that was the Rich Paul podcast, and I said, damn it, that's why I got to stick with my own instincts. That's why I can't flip-flop, and I can't be, I gotta trust my instincts. My instincts were right. I saw this circus that was a podcast where Rich Paul decides to use this latest LeBron James decision as content. Because not only is he an agent, he's also a content creator because he does this podcast, which means that he had to come up and put this whiteboard on the screen and is going through all the things that LeBron James is considering while he discusses with his team, what NBA team he's going to pick. So, like, with the Cavs, well, you know, it's going back home, and it's where he got drafted, and Sonny Weems, whatever the guy's name is, that's like a guy's like a brother to him, and all this other stuff, and he's got Dallas on there, and it's, I don't even know, I didn't watch the whole show, because I was like, I saw the Knicks clips, and I saw the clips I needed to see, but Dallas is on there, and I just see oil, casino, Africa. Okay, well, I don't know what the hell is that supposed to mean, but like these are apparently things that maybe will make him consider the Dallas Mavericks. I'm like, this is a circus. There's no other NBA player who has an NBA agent who just through his free agent process has decided I need to make content on this. And I'm thinking, this is why I didn't want him here. This is exactly why, because with LeBron James comes the need to be bigger than the team, to be bigger than the goal of winning a championship. And that is something that the Knicks don't need any part of. The Knicks are big enough, as we've seen. They've taken over basically the sports cycle for the last month. More than 2 months, basically, since basically they started going running roughshod through the Eastern Conference. We don't need any of this. We don't need Rich Paul nonsense. We don't need LeBron James passive aggressiveness when things aren't going his way. We don't need any of that. I would rather him just go to those other teams. We lose to them because they're better, then we lose to them. It's fine. Whatever. You just got to live with it. It's going to suck. And it's going to suck to lose LeBron if that does happen. I'm not saying it's a foregone conclusion. Let me be clear. I think the Knicks could square up still with anybody. But I want to win back-to-back. I want to see this team win as much as possible. So I'm keeping it real that, if he does go to one of those teams, that it definitely makes them much more formidable as a championship contender. So my thing is, man, if you could hurt your rivals and, you handle whatever you got to handle, you will figure out the chemistry thing. I don't think you can figure this guy out. I don't think you could figure out Rich Paul. I don't think you could figure out clutch pours. I think all that stuff is just toxicity that would not be welcome here in New York. If they figure it out in Philly, they figure it out in Cleveland, they figure it out in Miami, so be it. But I saw that podcast. I said, never mind. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. That I thought LeBron James would somehow be willing to take a backseat, be willing to not upset the apple cart, and actually join in on what is a great Knicks run. No, it has to always be extra. It always has to be more. And they're not likely going to get him, so I don't think you got to worry about it too much. But I saw that podcast, and I said, you actually got to be kidding me. And the last thing I'll say on this, too, is I also didn't like how Rich Paul even phrased that. He may not have meant it as disrespect, but I think to phrase it also as will come if Jalen Brunson makes a phone call. Now you're putting the onus on Jalen Brunson, almost kind of putting the bad thing out. Like, now listen, they have no influence on Knicks fans, so it won't matter. But almost like you putting out the bat signal like, hey, Knicks fans, if you really want LeBron here, it would be nice if your captain put in a call and said, hey, I am all good with the king, joining the king in New York, so come on board. Like the fact that you are even putting it out there that the reason why you may not be a Knick is because you weren't wined and dined by Jalen Brunson, it does not sit well with me. Again, why I don't F with these guys at all. Like, it's just, like, I'm like, Jalen Brunson is the king of New York. You should be calling Jalen Brunson. If you want to join the Knicks, you got to call the king. You're the king everywhere else. You're not the king here. You should have to call Jalen Brunson and say, hey, I'm thinking about coming here. I just want you to know it's your team. You're the captain. I'm only here to make things better. And if you want me to be here, I'll be here. If not, I'm cool. Jalen Brunson don't got to call you. He doesn't owe you anything. Why is Jalen Brunson got to call you? But, like, it's almost like, Jalen Brunson got to check in his own city? Like, what are we talking about? So even how that was phrased, I hated. So it is what it is, man. LeBron, he's one of the all-time greats. I think he's one of the second or third greatest players of all time. I'm never going to discount his basketball legacy at all. But, again, take that farewell tour somewhere else. All this, like, I don't know. I don't get it. But we keep it moving, man. There's some other important things that have happened over the course of the past few weeks. We'll get to that stuff, man, before we rock out of here. This has been a lot of fun. Again, you're listening to the Orange and Blue Bloods podcast. If you're enjoying this episode, be sure to check out the Orange and Blue Bloods podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn, or again, wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, be sure to give us a 5-star review, 5 stars if you can. We appreciate that. Subscribe and hit the auto download feature as well. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, NU Generation Media. New Generation Media is where you can watch episodes of Orange and Blue Bloods. Last little bit of Knicks notes I think that are important for you to know. And again, we'll probably have another episode later this week. But we have all those Knicks coming back. We got Shamet. We got Alvarado. We got Diawara. Still questions about what's going to happen with Jordan Clarkson, who right now is still a free agent. Now, if you're someone that wants Jordan Clarkson back, the good news is, according to Stephen Bondi, in all likelihood, Jordan Clarkson will indeed be back. Now, we've not gotten the notification from Shams. We haven't gotten the official report. But there is mutual interest, it seems like, on both sides to bring Jordan Clarkson back next year on a deal that will allow them to once again stay under the second apron. Clarkson played on a vet minimum last year. Perhaps he'll be playing on a vet minimum this year. But according to both Bondi and Ian Bailey, there's motivation on both sides to get a deal done to bring Jordan Clarkson back. So we'll wait to see when that happens. I hope it does happen. I think Jordan Clarkson, he didn't do what like we wanted him to do in terms of like what his role was going to be. But then he ended up carving out a role that was important. There was an idea that he would be this like microwave scorer off the bench like he's been for his entire career. And we watched him and we kind of realized he's kind of washed. But you could be washed as an offensive player, but that doesn't mean you won't have value. Like, he's not the offensive dynamo he was. He was a dynamic scorer when he was going for the Utah Jazz, when they were obviously going to the playoffs and those things. He's not that guy anymore. But to his credit, Mike Brown challenged him, took him out of rotation and challenged him to find a role doing something else. And he did, because he ended up being someone who was applying great ball pressure. He was a hustle guy. He could make a open three every now and then. And what I thought was also interesting was he kind of became this, like, pressure valve for Jalen Brunson when teams would double. He was really good playing out the high post. He was able to, work on that push shot, in that push runner shot, in that high post when guys would get double, whether it was Jalen, whether it was Cat or anybody else. He moved well without the ball. He found ways to still score and be effective offensively, even if the one-on-one bag and the shot creation bag had left him. So as long as he's still willing to defend, as long as he's still able to operate in that high post in an effective way, which he did last season, I'm all for Jordan Clarkson coming back on a veteran minimum deal. So I hope they're able to get that done. One guy who is also a free agent, but is not a Knick, but has some Knick fans wondering if he should be, is Demar Derozan. So Demar Derozan is being bought out by the Sacramento Kings. He averaged 18 points a game last year, and with DeMar DeRozan being at an advanced age and likely ring chasing at this point in his career, you would think, though we don't know for sure what he's going to do, it has made some wonder if DeMar DeRozan would be a good fit here in New York. I think DeMar seems like a good guy. I think he's somebody that is actually a fun guy to watch play if you're one of those like true hooper type guys, which I kind of dabble every now and then, being that kind of person. But I don't think he's a great fit for the Knicks. To me, if I had a choice, because essentially the Knicks really basically have two vet minimum contracts left. One of them is going to go to a third string center, and then one of them is going to go to either Clarkson or maybe in theory or DeRozan. DeRozan is a better player than Clarkson right now, but I would choose Clarkson over DeRozan if I had to make that decision, because I think the things that Clarkson brings to the table are more needed for the Knicks off the bench than what DeMar DeRozan brings. The Knicks don't necessarily have like this like scoring engine off the bench, which again, that was supposed to be Clarkson's role, and like in theory, like could DeRozan play that role? Maybe, but considering the minutes are going to be limited, I don't know if a volume scorer who does not space the floor or make threes or add really any value defensively at a wing position is what I would be looking for if I was the Knicks. It's not to say that he won't be someone valuable for another team that's looking to win. Like, I've seen the Boston Celtics have been rumored team to be interested. I don't know if an LA kid wants to play in Boston, but if he's willing to do that, I think that actually would be a pretty good move for the Celtics. I thought the Jaylen Brown trade was a disaster. I don't know what the hell they were thinking, but I think that would be, the lesson to blow as best as you can. I think getting DeRozan to come off the bench for them, for a team that's desperate, they need that. Like, they lost Jaylen Brown, and they replaced him with Paul George, who is someone who's very injury prone. So there's a reality that DeMar DeRozan may be starting a lot for the Celtics if he plays for them next year. So there are other teams that are quote-unquote contenders where I could see DeRozan being a fit. The Knicks don't scream fit to me. Like, again, if you're putting DeRozan in, that means you're taking away probably Mo Diawara's minutes. And again, I'd rather have Mo Diawara playing those combo 4 minutes. Like, Mo Diawara can defend, Mo Diawara can run the floor, Mo Diawara is a better 3-point shooter. Like, the reality is, you're when you're playing a bench role, there are very few guys that are coming off the bench and they're like basically the engines of the offense. Like, the Dylan Harpers, the Jordan Clarkson when he's healthy. Like, those guys, Jordan Clarkson when he was younger, rather. Like, yeah, those guys come off the bench. Remember Emmanuel Quickly, right? They came off the bench and the offense ran through them because of how talented they were offensively. But there are very few guys like that. Like, to me, the Knicks have, and the reason why those guys had roles that made sense was because those were teams that didn't have a lot of offensive weapons. Like, the Spurs do, but Harper's so good it doesn't matter. But, like, take the old Knicks, for example. Like, the truth of the matter was, Emmanuel Quickly is one of the best offensive players on the team, even though he's coming off the bench. So, even if he's out there with R.J. Barrett or out there with Reggie Bullock or whoever they got, like, it made sense to run offense through Emmanuel Quickly during those stretches because he was a guy who was electric. Jordan Clarkson, if Donovan Mitchell's not out there, you're seeing, Joe Ingles and Royce O'Neal, guys who aren't shot creators. Like, you needed someone who was a shot creator. So Clarkson's role made sense. Again, you can go down the line of all the great role players, great six men, Manu Ginobili, right? If Tony Parker and Duncan aren't out there, it wasn't like the Spurs were putting together teams with a bunch of shot creators. The Knicks have a ton of offense. Jalen Brunson's a shot creator. OG Anunoby's now a shot creator. Obviously, Cat's an offensive hub. And Mikal Bridges is a shot creator. So you got 4 guys already. Like, if DeMar DeRozan's out there, most likely he's still going to be out there playing with somebody that's a starter. If he's playing with any of those guys, the offense is still running through those guys. So if he's not a pressure valve, he's not someone that's going to be able to space the floor. Again, I just don't know really if the value makes sense. That's me. Again, it's nothing against DeMar. And he's someone that I hope does find a way to win, because he is, I think, been one of the more underrated players in the NBA for most of his career. I just don't think the fit's with the Knicks. I hope he don't play for a team in the East. I hope he's playing somewhere in the West. But for the Knicks fans that have been asking for DeRozan, I don't see the fit. I don't think it makes sense. So we'll see what happens with DeRozan, though. He is a free agent. By the way, Friday, Knicks Summer League action kicks off, so they'll be in Vegas. First game is going to be against the Brooklyn Nets, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So you'll have Mo Diawara taking the floor. Mohamed Diawara will also be taking the floor. Dylan Jones will be taking the floor. And second-round pick Tyler Nickel, who, one of the reasons why I wasn't able to record any Orange and Blue Bloods episodes over the past few weeks, outside of the fact that I had to literally leave New York City for a week to get married, was I was doing a lot of NBA draft content for Buzzer. Make sure, by the way, you guys follow me on Buzzer. It's the all-new sports content space, sports mobile app where the phrase is all sports, no frills, and all verified sports reporters, hosts, content creators all are on there doing live shows, doing specialized content, all without the typical aggregator, political, toxic nonsense you see on X or other applications. So Buzzer's an awesome place. It's where I did a bunch of NBA draft content with my brother Kendall. So we were doing a lot of NBA draft shows during the week of the draft after I came back from the weddings. That's why, again, the Orange and Blue Bloods was a little bit delayed. But Tyler Nickel was a pick that I actually liked the pick. He wasn't really someone that was so much on my board, but the guy is a radar shooter, and to me, if you can shoot and you got some size, then you got a shot in the league, and Tyler Nickel has all of those things. So I'm excited to see Tyler Nickel play. I'm excited to see how he stacks up against NBA-like athletes, because I think it's, in many ways, guys who shoot well in college sometimes is different. Shooting consistently behind the three-point line. I think that distance is a factor. And 2, shooting over the kind of length that you see regularly in the NBA that you don't see in college. So I'll be curious to see how the Knicks rookie does, but I'll be happy to see him again. Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time is when you'll see Knicks Summer League action. By the way, no Jack Cahill, who was the other Knicks second-round pick, the point guard out of Germany. He's not going to be playing. That being a huge indication, obviously, that the Knicks prefer to keep him overseas. He was drafted as a draft and stash guy. Ironically, I'm a huge Gonzaga Bulldog fan. Was supposed to be a Gonzaga Bulldog, committed to the team, then decommitted to enter the NBA draft. So I was devastated as a Gonzaga fan for a team that desperately needed a boost in their recruiting this past offseason. But very happy now that he's a Knick. But we're not going to see him, so you're going to have to watch some German league basketball next year if you're going to want to keep tabs on Jack Cahill. But he's a bigger guard. He's someone without a conscience when it comes to his shot selection. It's not always the best shot selection, but I do think he's someone that has shown he can hit tough shots. And he's a young player. He's a guy, again, 19 years old, 20 years old, whatever he is. So this is somebody that they're going to continue to see develop overseas, and maybe he's somebody that becomes a potential option for them as a backup point guard maybe in a year or two, so that'll be someone to follow. Or he can go the route of Rokas Jokubaitis, who never came over. I still wonder if he would have made it in the NBA. It sucks that we never got an opportunity to see Rokas, but nonetheless, Jack Cahill not playing in the Summer League, but you will get to see Tyler Nickel take the floor. Again, that'll be Friday, 6 p.m. Against the Nets in the NBA Summer League in Las Vegas. And last thing, once again, we got to give a round of applause. We're giving a round of applause to one Patrick Ewing, who announced that he would be joining the Washington Wizards coaching staff, of course led by their head coach Brian Keefe. Patrick Ewing has been really kind of like, captain of aura for the Knicks in the last 2 playoff runs. Like he obviously, he got fired after the Georgetown head coaching stint ended poorly. Ended poorly in the sense that they just lost. It wasn't any scandal or anything, but he never really got to turn the program around the way he wanted. It's very hard for the NBA guys to go to college basketball. It's just a different atmosphere, There's different skill set needed to be successful in college than in the NBA. So it didn't work out for Patrick Ewing in his first head coaching job, coaching his alma mater. But I'm very happy he got another opportunity to coach in the NBA. Because I'll be honest, I didn't know if Patrick Ewing was just going to be like Knicks ambassador for the rest of his life or rest of his, part of this. Because he was at the Garden all the time. Again, traveling with the team. I thought he actually was he just seemed to bring good mojo. And I think for a lot of Knicks fans, it was cathartic to see them go on this run. And you see the shots of Allen Houston, Patrick Ewing, and John Starks, going crazy in the stands while they're beating up on Philly on the road, or they're beating up on Cleveland on the road, or Patrick Ewing giving the trophy to Jalen Brunson for the Eastern Conference Finals, or for them to win the NBA championship and see Patrick Ewing and Allen Houston be like, we finally did it. We're finally getting rings, and it's legitimate because they're both team employees, so they actually get rings, and we know how close they got. Like, it was just really fitting, and it's a little sad for me, only in the sense that I really enjoyed it. I'm wearing, actually, didn't even plan this, I'm wearing an NBA Jam Patrick Ewing John Starks shirt here today. Again, was not planned in terms of like talking about this, and the fact that I'm wearing a shirt, that was just coincidence. But that's, of course, for those watching on the show. Those not listening, they don't care. But no, I just really, I really just sad only in the sense that it was really great to see those guys during this run. And in some ways, maybe it was like, they won. My watch has ended. Let me go back to coaching, which is something that he is still passionate about. And I hope that I almost said Charles Oakley, Jesus. I hope that Patrick Ewing eventually does get the opportunity to coach in the NBA. And listen, I'll be honest, going to the Wizards, that is essentially NBA rock bottom. But they got AJ the Bouncer. They still have Anthony Davis. It seems like he's not going anywhere. And they signed Trae Young inexplicably to a max contract. So they got something over there. So hopefully Patrick Ewing goes there and finds his footing. But congrats to the big fella on the job. I know he definitely wanted to get back into coaching. So I'm happy he's able to do that. That's going to do it, man. This was fun. I'm really happy to get back into the saddle and do another episode of Orange and Blue Bloods. You won't have to wait 2 or 3 weeks, however long it was since the last time Knicks won the NBA title. You won't have to wait that long for the next episode. We'll probably again do one a little later this week. So I want to thank you guys for rocking with me. Thank you guys for rocking me throughout the playoff run. I know I talked about it in the last episode, but I want to express my appreciation again because I was very fortunate to get this show back. Did not expect to get it back when it happened, but when it did, it was very, fortuitous and serendipity, as Clyde Frazier would say. And just the response and just the good time this was. I'm just really grateful. So I thank you guys for listening to me. I thank you guys for watching these episodes. Be sure to, again, follow me on social media, EJ_Stewart, Instagram, Action EJ. And we'll catch you later. That'll do it for now. I'll catch you guys in a little bit. Take it easy. Peace.